phones. You're not selling anything.
The Fed's not done, and I'm going to tell you why.
Welcome back to Sean's show, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here with us. Give it up for George behind the scenes, making it happen. I hope you're having a great week. I had an excellent week. Lots of news to get to. I flew into Newark this week. I flew into the Newark Airport and I died. I'm broadcasting to you from heaven. Hell, let's be honest. I flew into the I flew into the Newark, New Jersey International Airport. And when I landed, I was hired as an air traffic controller. Ladies and gentlemen, I have great news. I landed in the Newark International Airport. We almost crashed. We almost clipped another airplane on the way in because the Newark air traffic control is on fire. We were flying into Newark, and here's what's scary, guys. I was flying into the Newark International Airport, and I saw the last two air traffic controllers in the tower. I saw them from the plane, and they were committing suicide. They were actually hanging. They used the cords from their headsets, and they actually hung themselves as we were landing. So that was not good. You don't want to see that. You don't want to be flying, the planes coming into land and you see the air traffic controllers beating the shit out of each other. That's what they were doing. I was landing in Newark and one of the air traffic controllers was screaming. He was like, "You don't tell me how to do my fucking job." That's so scary. The Newark air traffic control tower is so critically understaffed that when we landed, I was the most autistic looking guy on the plane, and they literally hired me on the spot. So I'm actually quitting the show. This is the last episode of Sean's show. I'm actually quitting. They gave me an offer that I couldn't refuse. They offered me $140,000 starting salary with a hiring bonus. And the hiring bonus was PTSD, trauma, which is what the Newark air traffic controllers are experiencing. If you've read anything about this story, if you live under a rock, or if you live on the West Coast and you don't concern yourself with Eastern coastal catastrophe, you may not know this, but the Newark, it is chaos. It's chaos in Newark. And and a lot of, and we're going to get into this story, but a lot of news articles are saying, "Hey, don't fly into Newark. It's chaos right now. Don't fly." Every news article out there is going, "It's chaos in Newark right now. The air traffic controllers it's critically understaffed. Everything's delayed. Do not fly into Newark." And they're telling that as if anyone flies into that airport by choice. You think anyone? That's why these news articles are so useless. All the articles are like, "Hey, just so you know, don't fly into Newark. Fly into Teterboro. Fly into JFK. Fly into LaGuardia." Let me tell you guys something. People that fly into Newark are not doing that because they've made any good decisions in their life. If you are flying into Newark and that's home for you, you've made some bad decisions. You've made some choices that are wrong, are bad. And to be honest, I really don't have any sympathy if your flight into Newark is disrupted. It'd be like saying, "Hey, just so you know, don't go to that area. If you're going to go to that area of Mexico, the cartel is there, just so you know." It's like, "Hey, just so you know, if you're going to fly into Alcatraz, it's delayed. Things are delayed when you're flying in there." Or I don't know. So it's insane. It's insanity right now. Let's pull up the story. Our first headline: pure insanity. Air traffic control reportedly managed. Pure insanity. The number one air traffic controller, listen to this, reportedly managed all flights at Newark Liberty for 3 hours. Give this man a raise. Give this man a cold beer, some Xanax, and a blowjob. You know this man. I mean, imagine having to manage flights. I don't know if you guys know. I know maybe you guys don't know that much about air traffic controllers. And I want to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I want to tie in some stuff. Number one, RFK, who's the Secretary of Health, has a campaign. And you may not, I've spoke about the campaign in the past previously, but RFK is waging a war. He's waging a war on autism, on autistic people. And one of the things he said into a microphone, like the one I'm talking into, is he said that autistic people can't hold down a job. He said that. Now, the messaging on that is crazy. That's crazy messaging. To say that autistic people can't hold down a job is ridiculous. And in fact, I would suggest that there's actually certain professions where we all prefer them to have autism. One of those professions, I think, is air traffic control. Okay? I you know that old saying, you guys may know this saying, if it's not Boeing, I ain't going. I've thought of some modern updates to this phrase. If he's not stimming, we're all going to end up swimming. This is true, okay? I don't, like, RFK is like, who does RFK want to be in the air traffic control? People that can socialize? Fuck no. You think this guy that managed air traffic control at Newark for 3 hours straight by himself? If you think that that's a social man that isn't like, and I'm assuming it's a man, and let's be honest, it's probably a man. I don't want to be sexist. If this was a woman, I'll commit suicide live on the show. But this person, this air traffic controller who managed all the air traffic for Newark Liberty by themselves, that is not a person who does ecstasy and goes to Coachella. That's not a person who's social, that like is an extrovert, that like goes out to bars. This is a person, and this is my message to all of you guys. We all, if you want to make it in the world, if the world is an unsafe place, it's a bad place. If you want to make it in the world, we all need to start locking the fuck in like this guy. This is a lock-in moment. I hope they make a movie about this guy. Can we scroll down? I don't know if they name him. They should give him an award. And also, you guys may not know, air traffic control infrastructure is from like the 1980s. It really, it's like copper wiring. Air traffic control technology is so bad, they're sending like messenger pigeons to the pilots. That's how fucked this is. You guys think it's bad? I was landing at Newark and there's air traffic control. They're like writing letters on and then tying it to pigeon legs and the pigeons are flying into the pilots and saying, and the messages are like, land on runway 28 right. Like a pigeon. And then the pigeons it's a carrier pigeons. That's what it feels like. It's like that's how it's like when I read about these stories about how we need to upgrade our air traffic control infrastructure. I'm like, well, how bad is it? They're like, we're using sign language. We're like literally like we're like using smoke. We're like burning different colors of smoke so that the pilots can land at Newark. Meanwhile at LaGuardia, I'm just saying this, everyone that lands, they get a blowjob. The air traffic controls are like, they're chilling, they're all on Adderall. We need Adderall. We need 20 more air traffic controllers, and we need a bucket of Adderall. Buckets of Adderall. I'm not the transportation secretary. That job goes to a man named Sean Duffy, who we're going to talk about, a different Sean. I think I happen to think he's not doing a very good job. We'll talk about it. If I was the Secretary of Transportation for the Trump administration, I would say, hey, we need to stop the bleeding. Yes. Do we need to upgrade the infrastructure? Of course. Do we need more air traffic controllers? Yes, we do. We need to get those things through Congress. really what we need to do is get King Trump to approve the funding, right? That's how our government works now. But to stop the bleeding, what we need yesterday is a bucket of Adderall so that these air traffic controllers can lock in, get on meth. We need meth. It's a war zone. The New York Times. So here's the exclusive report. This is from simpleflying.com. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't know why I said the name, but I'm just for the source. You guys don't give a shit about sources. This is all lies. Let's before I read the thing, you guys, this will never be a show where you're like, well, what's the source for that? Like, that's not this show. Here's how it works. I find the fake news and read the fake news, and I make jokes about the fake news. You listen and laugh and repeat it to your friends. That's the goal of the show. It's about propaganda. An exclusive report by the New York Post claims that on Monday evening between 18:30 and 21:30, oh Christ, let's just use military time in our reporting. By the way, I hate aviation nerds. They're pathetic. They're the worst type of, I have a degree in aerospace engineering, ladies and gentlemen. People that are into aviation, as a hobbyist aviators and neo-Nazis, that's a circle. That Venn diagram's a circle. Let's be honest. You know I'm not wrong about that. People, when you started talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, the F-22 Raptor was like the coolest jet. And you're like, oh yeah, what else do you like to do? I read Mein Kampf last night. They're like Kanye. They listen to Kanye's music. They're like, what I like to do is I like to read. I like to read about the history of aviation and in World War II and how the different planes affected the battles. And then you're like, oh yeah, what else? And there's a certain country that should have won that war. Had Germany? So check this out. The New York Post claims that on Monday evening between 6:30 and 11:30 p.m., flights out of Newark Liberty International Airport were handled by just one air traffic controller and there's a trainee. There's a trainee. Imagine being that trainee. I mean, Jesus Christ. No wonder no one wants to be an air traffic controller. You show up and you're stepping over the bodies of the previous air traffic controllers that killed themselves. If you are a trainee and you're going into the Newark Air Traffic Control Tower, you're going to go in there and the first thing you're going to see is a guy in the fetal position in the corner crying and being like, I couldn't save them. I wasn't focused enough. It was my fault. I wasn't focused enough. Those deaths are on my hands. And you're like, hi, I'm here for my first day. He's like, oh, okay, sit right there. We'll get started. It's like, I couldn't save them. Like, you're like, hi, I'm Sean. I'm the new trainee at the Newark Air Traffic Control. I've minor autism and I'm excited to get started. Be like, I don't know who I am. I shouldn't have ate dinner. I ate dinner and I wasn't here. And then they almost crashed. I don't know how bad it is. But it's bad enough that people are whistleblowing. One of the whistleblowers described the situation to the New York Post as unlike anything he's seen in his decades-long career. He described the control room for the Newark airport as having 5 radar scopes with 1 air traffic control monitoring each. Okay, so it's 5 total. 1 or 2 fully certified air traffic controllers managing these many screens is far from ideal. Well, that's the understatement of the century. Far from ideal? That's like going into Auschwitz during the Holocaust to be like, this situation is far from ideal. Look, we're gonna be like, that's like visiting Auschwitz when Hitler's in charge and like going there and be like, and then leaving and be like, what'd you see? The situation is far from ideal. He said that to cope with such a situation, the FAA issues ground stop delays. The report quotes him as saying 15 is the target for Newark. Anything less than half of that is rough. Safety begins to be compromised. If you get below half of that standard, so 7, well, first of all, our air traffic controllers can't do math. 15 divided by 7, or divided by 2, is 7.5. It's not 7. Your safety begins to be compromised, and the FAA knows that. So what they'll do is put out ground stop delays, and that's what we're seeing across the country. So the situation's bad, and obviously the one thing that comes to everyone's mind is, well, why can't we just get more air traffic controllers? The reality is it takes years to train or even transfer eligible air traffic controllers from another location to Newark. So it's not like you can just hire a bunch of them and they're ready to go. Now, do I have a big enough ego to think that I could lock in? Yes. Do I have a big enough ego to think that if they hired me, I could get it? Here's the thing. People in this industry have a massive ego. And they go, well, you want to be an air traffic controller, buddy? It takes 2 years of training. It's the same thing as being a doctor. And maybe I am a fucking narcissist. But correct me, or I'm sorry if I think that if you have a good attitude and you listen, I think that you would be able to, anyone can basically be a doctor in like 6 months. Is that crazy? Maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe people in high-paying jobs want us all to think that what they do is really hard and you can never do it. Maybe they want the supply to be low. Maybe the air traffic controllers want this stuff to happen. No, that's not true. But maybe it's not as hard as they think to be a trainee at an air traffic control. Let's jump over. There's a video that I'd like to watch where Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, is discussing, among other things, what the situation is and what they're doing to remedy it. Let's take a look at this first video.
Picked another airport.
After an equipment outage resulted in a 45-minute ground stop at one of the nation's busiest airports. Issued at 8:15 a.m. local time after a source tells NBC News an audio issue caused a popping sound on a few radio frequencies between pilots and air traffic controllers.
Okay.
The telecommunications issue led the FAA to use their backup system. The impact fell throughout the day, with over 300 flights delayed or canceled. It's the third outage after weeks of travel.
3 outages.
Transportation Secretary Duffy on NBC News' Meet the Press.
I'm concerned about the whole airspace, right? The equipment that we use, much of it we can't buy parts for new. We have to go on eBay and buy parts if one part goes down. You're dealing with really old equipment.
Okay, pause it.
Comes after
eBay
screens briefly went black.
eBay? Our critical aviation infrastructure is being purchased on eBay? That's where I buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards. eBay. Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Duffy. Give it up for Sean Duffy and the Trump administration. I mean, is that a business? I'm struggling for cash. Maybe I need to start selling aviation infrastructure on eBay. Hey, by the way, who is selling this stuff? So how does, let me just get an understanding of what's going on here. We are in need of upgrades to our telecommunication infrastructure. I'm talking about copper wiring, fiber optic cables. Also, who is selling this shit? And how did you, the seller, find yourself in possession of air traffic control equipment? Did you steal it? Did you work for a supplier and then keep it? And why are you now selling it? Who is selling it? We're talking about radar equipment? I mean, what are we talking about here? And how do we know that this equipment hasn't been bugged by our adversaries? Of course, I'm talking about Sean Diddy Combs, P. Diddy. How do we know that P. Diddy hasn't put spying devices in the air traffic control equipment that will then subsequently sabotage us later? We are buying Sean, and here's what I love about politicians and leaders. I love that they come out, and this is the genius of Trump. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but he comes out and he is the leader along with his cabinet. And they come out and they go, can you believe what Sean Duffy just did is he goes to the press and he goes, can you believe that we're buying shit on eBay? You're the guy. You are the guy. Are you not the guy? You're the Secretary of Transportation. And you're pointing your finger at the system, but you are the system. And you're saying, it's crazy, we have to buy the equipment on eBay. Whose fault is that? How can I get involved? Can we go on eBay real quick, George? Maybe let's go to eBay. Maybe I can save the world.
There's a category.
No, there's not.
There is. There's an aviation category.
Okay.
I just Googled
We're going to go on. Oh, you're ahead of me. See, George needs to be air traffic. Honestly, podcast producing is a lot like being an air traffic controller. It is. You have to control my mind. You stop me from being racist. So we're going to go on eBay and we're going to see if we can help supply the Newark air traffic control with equipment. Because clearly they need it. Can I donate? If I ever do a comedy show in New Jersey, I may have to fly into Newark. So I'm invested in this. I mean, like what? I mean, again, guys, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on air traffic control equipment, but truly, if we are buying it on eBay, that is not good. And I know that the people that listen to this show, you may not have been on a plane ever in your life because you don't have $200 to your name. But let's take a look. Okay, here we are. We're on eBay. Hey, you know what, Sean Duffy? Sean, if you don't want to do the job, fuck you, bitch. I'll do the job. I'll use my dad's money and we will buy. Let's click on avionics. Why not? Let's see what it costs. Okay, here we go. Okay, I guess we will now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new segment on my show called Saving Federal Air Aviation Infrastructure, one ham radio at a time. How about flight controls? There we go. Okay. How much does Sean get paid? How much is Sean Duffy getting paid? I'm on eBay. Helicopter, aircraft, flight simulation controls. Okay, let's click on that red one. That one for 300. KAP 315 annunciator panel, $300. Now, see, what I'm truly looking at this. I'm really less worried about the safety of the people that fly on these planes, and I'm more worried about how people get in the possession of an annunciator panel. If you are in the possession of an annunciator panel and you are selling it on eBay, I think you should go to jail. I don't think you should get a trial. Why do you have an annunciator panel? I mean, I don't get it. Let's cut back to this video with Sean and I want to see we have a few more videos on this. I mean, truly guys, the situation is dire. It's a dire situation. So let's keep watching. eBay.
Newark's TradeCon on Friday in Philadelphia. But on top of the technical failures, Newark has been dealing with runway construction and bad weather. United CEO says passengers do not need to be worried.
This is good.
It absolutely is safe at Newark and in the entire country.
Oh, yeah?
Is, when these kind of outages happen, we train for them. We have backup procedures.
At Atlanta's
Can you pause it?
Let's
watch that again because I didn't set it up very well. I forgot to say that what you just heard was the United Airlines CEO. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what the United Airlines CEO had. So you're listening to me right now. If you're listening, let me just summarize what we've addressed so far. One air traffic controller was responsible for all of the flights coming in for a period of 3 hours. That is what I would describe as a catastrophic safety failure. It's the equivalent of jumping across the Grand Canyon in a fucking Ferrari and crossing your fingers that you're going to live. Truly, like, that's how it's like tightrope walking and you happen to make it, right? Nothing. Thank fucking Christ there wasn't a crash. Truly, 3 times there was an outage. 3 outages in a period of, it truly is only a matter of time before there's a catastrophic crash and innocent people lose their lives. Or me, which would be a bunch of innocent people and me. Now, all that being said, let's hear how the United Airlines CEO, which, by the way, United has a huge presence at the Newark Airport. Keep in mind, the United Airlines, one of their major revenue profit generating areas is the Newark Airport. Let's see how he thinks what he wants people to know. Okay.
Weather. United CEO says passengers do not need to be worried.
It absolutely is safe at Newark and in the entire country. And the reason is, when these kind of outages happen, we train for them. We have backup procedures.
At Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport today, a ground stop.
Surprise, surprise. A CEO lies. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I did. Surprise, surprise. The CEO lied. That's like he's saying it's safe. It's not safe. That's like a tobacco executive being like, it's the same thing. It's like the CEO of Marlboro going, I smoke sometimes, and he never smokes. He's lying, right? He's like smoking his first cigarette in 10 years, and he's being like, I smoke all the time. Cigarettes are completely safe. You guys have nothing to worry about. It doesn't cause cancer. Everyone's lying. And you want to know why? Because the I almost said United Healthcare. That was a Freudian slip. But you know what? Maybe another company CEO with United in the name needs a little message. Truly, guys, it's if he's saying, look, guys, he doesn't care about you. And in that interview, by the way, an air traffic controller was giving him a blowjob. He was standing up telling you guys, don't worry, guys, it's safe. Everything is safe. Underneath, below the end of the camera shot, he was getting his dick sucked by an air traffic controller forcefully. Okay? That's how this works. And by the way, do you think that the United Airlines CEO flies into Newark? Let me put that out there. The United Airlines CEO, it's almost the same. It's a parallel. It's actually a very clear parallel. The United Healthcare CEO, before his untimely death, may he rest in peace, before he was taken from us, he said that the healthcare packages, let me ask you this. Do you think that he was on the insurance programs that he markets to the public for health insurance? Do you think that the United Healthcare CEO, he could have used some healthcare services, if you know what I mean, before the end of his life. He could really, but he, I doubt, was on United Healthcare insurance. He had gold-plated concierge health. Doctors come to his home and give him adrenochrome and inject the blood of a 12-year-old, into him to keep him alive. He doesn't use the shitty healthcare that he marketed to people. Do you think the United Airlines CEO is flying on a commercial jet in coach into Newark? Fuck no. He's flying into Teterboro. He flies private into Teterboro on a PJ. And guess what? Teterborough's air traffic controllers, I bet you a lot of the executives are hearing about the issues at Newark. And I bet you they made a call. And they said, hey, just so you know, just want to make sure, like, the Teterboro air traffic controllers, they're okay, right? Like, are the issues affecting the private jet air traffic, or are we good to go there? And they're like, oh, sir, believe us, believe me, that's fine. So they're looking out for themselves, as they always have and they always will. Now, I really just think that this could evolve into something horrible. No one wants. I mean, like, guys, we need. And okay, actually, I just remembered. This isn't a new issue. I want to make it clear that, like, this is not. Everyone's blaming the Trump administration, and they own some of the responsibility of the issues that are going on right now. Sure. But this is an issue that Democratic and Republican presidents and administrations they've just failed the public repeatedly. And it's not just Newark, it's nationwide. And it started with one of my favorite people from history, Ronald Reagan, everybody. Give it up for our good friend Ronald, who was the president. And I want to play a little bit of a segment. So you may wonder, like, well, why are air traffic controllers so underfunded, and where did these staffing issues begin? Well, that's a good question. And the staffing issues started when Ronald Reagan fired 11,000 air traffic controllers because they unionized. So Ronald Reagan union busted the air traffic control union. He fired 11,000 of them. And then what did we do in response? We named an airport after him. What the fuck? Ronald Reagan made flying commercial flights so much more unsafe. And what did we do in response? We named it the Ronald Reagan DCA. You fly into DC, DCA, that's the Ronald Reagan Airport. Because what we do in America is we just love to give people, you know what we love to do in America is we like to give the worst people, we like to name our buildings and things after the worst people. Ronald Reagan International Airport. If Ronald, let me just be clear, guys. And this is true for the Trump administration. The Trump administration, the air traffic control, this is the federal government. If Elon Musk had his way, there would not be an air traffic control. You'd be flying in and you'd have to subscribe to one of 3 air traffic control services to land, or you don't land. That would be the way that Elon would do it. He would say, why is the federal government, why is the taxpayer paying for air traffic control? Let's let and I agree. We should let the free market decide how planes should land. I don't want a federal air traffic control owned by the government. I want it to be Walmart, and I want it to be Verizon, and I want it to be AT&T. Because we all know how good AT&T is, right? And we all love T-Mobile. Imagine T-Mobile runs the air traffic control. Maybe some of you listening would love that. T-Mobile. They want Elon Musk, and I'm not kidding. He wants people at T-Mobile to be in a building, landing planes. Have you been to a T-Mobile? I don't trust those people. I don't trust anyone that works at a Verizon. They're nice people. They're not stupid, but we need the federal government to run this. And I'm sorry, Ronald Reagan decided that he could do it and run it like a business, and so he fired 11,000 of them. So let's take a little listen. This is a little blast of the past.
Strike breaking became the thing to do. Striking copper miners in Arizona, fired. Striking paper workers in Maine, fired. Meat packers, bus drivers. So many strikes in the 1980s were broken to the point where unions realized that employers wanted them to strike so that they could fire them and replace them with non-union workers.
I love this country.
And if you realize that your boss wants you to strike so they can fire you and rehire somebody else, that is going to make you less likely to strike. The main piece of leverage unions have.
The government keeps track of the number of strikes, and if you look at the numbers, you see a lot of strikes right after World War II when unions were flying high, and the numbers trend downward slowly. But suddenly, in 1982, there's this huge drop-off. That drop-off, that is the air traffic controller strike.
Here again is retired controller Ron Palmer.
I think Reagan lowered his heel when he lowered his heel on PATCO.
PATCO's the
Everybody
air traffic control union.
In the United States that was a member of a union took a long, hard look at what happened to us.
And basically said they got squashed.
We better, we better be careful here.
Wow. I'm going to talk over the music so we don't get copyright busted. Da-da-da. I hate
Live
YouTube.
from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh.
This is from a while
President
back.
Trump is the guest of honor at a state dinner in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia, capping a day of major announcements, such as
Oh, wait. This might be the wrong...
$1 billion business deal with his host and plans to lift sanctions on Syria.
Oh, wait.
Tomorrow
yeah.
in Riyadh, Trump is expected to briefly meet with Syrian
Yeah,
President
try hitting play
Ahmad.
here.
1981.
That was weird.
President Ronald Reagan faced a test.
It's weird. It like jumps.
This morning at 7 a.m.,
That's odd.
the union representing
Anyway,
those who man
we can
America's
pause. You can
air
pause it. We got the
traffic
gist of it.
controls.
Basically, Ronald Reagan busted the air traffic control union, and we've really never recovered. We've never recovered. So that's that story. We're gonna move on. I hope that was. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think again, I want to reiterate, guys. It is safe to fly. Flying is safe. We all can trust. It's very important that you understand that it is safe to fly. Flying is safe and effective. Ladies and gentlemen, flying today. Flying into Newark. There's never, I mean, truly, like the United Airlines CEO was almost like, there's never been a better time to fly into Newark. We read all these reports about how the air traffic, I want to go so bad to the air traffic control in Newark. I wish I could be a fly on the wall and just listen in to what's going on in the air traffic control in Newark. I wish so bad. You know, some of these air traffic controllers, it's so fucking stressful that they get 45 days of trauma leave. Isn't that wild? I mean, I feel like as one of the world's renowned podcasters, I should get 45 days of trauma leave for having to talk about this. Where's my trauma leave? So we'll keep abreast of that story. Now I hear an airplane in the background. I'm like, fuck, we're gonna die. It would be so insane if a plane smashed into the fucking building as we're talking about this. That would be what happens. People are like, George, that sounds a little low. Doesn't that? Like, I mean, it's truly, and it's like, make air traffic controllers autistic again. Make air traffic controllers MAC tag. It works. MAC tag. Let's move on. On the bright side, habeas corpus has been suspended. On the bright side, you no longer get a trial. Hey guys, don't worry. I know it's scary to fly right now, but don't worry. Now when you get detained, they don't need to prove why they're detaining you. That's good. Don't worry, guys. On the bright side, we're on the precipice of martial law. National martial law. And I know a lot of you in the South that listen to this go, damn fucking right, brother. Martial law. Martial's a good, strong American name. Now, what does that mean? You're like screaming at people like, martial law is imminent. Prepare yourself. They go, I love marshals. My wife loves marshals. Like, no, not that marshal. That's like, okay, I'm honestly, I'm on one today. Doesn't martial law sound like a great idea for a sitcom? Like, except it's, you know, MARSHALL, like martial law. And then it features like a bunch of like suburban moms in Newark. Martial law. Marshall's law. And it's like, or like Marshall, like, and Marshall's like the main mom. And her husband is in the air traffic control. And the story starts with her husband committing suicide. It's actually a drama. Martial law. Martial Law coming to HBO 2026, featuring a bunch of suburban moms in Newark. One of the moms, her husband was in air traffic control and ended his life after a catastrophic. I'm just writing Breaking Bad again. I'm just rewriting Breaking Bad. Marshall, my husband died. So we'll move habeas corpus. Now, what is habeas corpus? Sounds like an Italian dish. I'm hungry. I'm getting hungry. Habeas corpus. Let me get Merlot. I'd like a Merlot, and I'd like habeas corpus well done. Please. Thank you. Habeas corpus, the writ of habeas corpus, is a clause or an idea, a legal idea. In Latin, I believe it means the body is present or something like that. But effectively what habeas corpus is, if you are not a legal scholar like myself, is the idea that you are entitled to certain rights when you are charged with a crime or you're detained. It means that the government, this is from NBC, the writ of habeas corpus, which dates back centuries, grants anyone. Now, before I keep going, I want you guys to remember what the definition of anyone is. Anyone means anyone on U.S. soil. Anyone. Not just people that you think are citizens, okay? The writ of habeas corpus, which dates back centuries, grants anyone detained in the U.S. the right to see a judge, challenge the government's evidence against them, and present a defense. It's the right to your free trial. And it's what separates us from other countries that we so often look down on as being third world countries. And what does Stephen Miller want to do? He wants to suspend, aka remove, habeas corpus. For what reason? The reason he wants to do that is so that they can carry out their plan to mass deport immigrants who they suspect are here illegally. Now, that is the story. Why is it concerning? Well, it's concerning, first of all, because it gives the executive, Trump in this case, it gives the executive unilateral authority to imprison you indefinitely without cause. Now, I think that doesn't sound like, that doesn't sound like the America I grew up in. The America I grew up in, we all, the America I grew up in, well, at least white men had rights. Now it seems like even white men, it's a sad state of affairs, people. When the white men get scared, this country is going down the shitter. Because we're all the last domino to fall. And people are debating debating this, because on the one hand, here's how they're justifying it. And I'm trying to zoom out. I want to zoom out a little bit here and really think about this. Stephen Miller, which we can watch a video shortly on it, but Stephen Miller is saying that there's a legal justification for this. He's saying that our nation, habeas corpus can be suspended if the nation is being invaded. And he's saying that the invasion that's happening is immigration. Now, I don't know about you, but when I imagine an invasion, I imagine a bunch of people coming over the border with guns and intentions to kill us. I don't imagine someone delivering me a pizza on an electric bike. If your idea of an invasion is people riding around the city on e-bikes giving you Chick-fil-A, then you need to go to a mental hospital, because that is what the people that are coming to this country, that's what they're doing. That's not an invasion. That is not an invasion. If you think that that's an invasion, you are high. And you need to go to jail indefinitely. Okay? Let's scroll down a little bit and see more on this. I mean, it is concerning. Can I say that? Again, I'm not this like, I try to think I'm a reasonable guy here, and I'm not trying to like rail against the right all the time because it's easy. That's not what I'm here to do. I try to look at things case by case. And in this instance, I happen to think that suspending your right to a trial is a bad thing. They noted that Article 1 of the Constitution, which describes Congress's powers, states, quote, "The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion of the public safety may require it." And look, we can get into a debate about statistics. We can get into a debate all day about crime statistics for immigrants. And you know what? I don't even want to have that debate. I don't want to have that debate. You want to know why? Because I happen to use DoorDash daily. And I also happen to think that these people are not here to rape and kill and eat our pets. Is it really that unreasonable to say that most people that come here, and hey, if you want to, I'll use the word, if you want to use the letter of the law, if you really think that people that come here illegally, first of all, our immigration system is unbelievably broken, and if you want to come here legally, you're not going to get here until you're dead. And that's the choice I feel like people don't understand, is like people that are very anti-immigration are like, they're like, well, why don't they just do it legally? Well, because they watched their dad get his head blown off by the cartel. So forgive them. How about we give them a little slack that they can't sit down with oh, you know what? You're right. They should just do it legally. Why don't you go send them a MacBook? Send them a MacBook and a Starlink and an AR-15 and say, send in a form online. Why don't you send a MacBook to Venezuela so they can apply online? Why don't we do that? You know what? You're right. You know what they should do? People from Venezuela that want to come here, they should do it legally. They should open up their MacBook and they should go to their studio office and they should connect to the Wi-Fi. And they should DoorDash. Who DoorDashes in Venezuela? That's what I want to know. Is it like, is it Indian? I don't know. It's going to be funny. And that's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. History is cyclical. One day, mark my words, I may be dead. You may be listening to this 100 years from now. Mark my words. One day, Americans are going to be the DoorDashers. One day, this is the future. I can see the future. One day, the white American men are going to be the poor men on the bikes in Venezuela. Everyone's going to be speaking Chinese, okay? And they're going to be DoorDashing food. They're going to be DoorDashing food to the Chinese that live in Venezuela, okay? That's the future. And you like it or not, that's what Trump is doing. Because making America great again, I don't think that suspending habeas corpus is is great. I would say, to use a quote from earlier in the show, I would say that suspending habeas corpus is far from ideal. It's far from ideal. People are critical of this. The one power you cannot give the executive is the power to arbitrarily imprison people who oppose the regime. Today, it may be an El Salvadorian immigrant or a foreign student. But tomorrow, it is you or me. The slope to despotism can be slippery and quick. You know what else is slippery and quick? This dick. Let's watch one of the videos. I think I may have a video on habeas corpus. I love, and what's really important to think about is like laws. You know, I don't like that everyone gets so muddied up in the legal jargon, and they let go like, well, there's a legal precedent for this. The only thing that matters is guns and money. Guns and money. Let's listen to Stephen Miller try and talk his way out of this. Stephen Miller is the deputy chief of staff for the White House, and he has a good idea of why it actually does make sense to suspend habeas corpus. Let's take a look.
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day,
can you pause it?
Congress.
Stephen Miller, we need to suspend. Someone suspended the right of hair on your head, bitch. You bald. I'm sorry, George. If we've never cut to George, can I tell the audience that you bald fuck? I'm sorry, George. See, now I'm going after my own. Someone suspended the writ of hair on your head, Stephen Miller. You look like a vampire. You look like a white egg. You look like someone drew a face on a white egg and then polished it with like nail polish. That's what your head looks like. Your suit looks cheap. Your tie looks distracting. And your mouth is small. And your ideas are stupid. Let's keep listening.
Passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article 3 courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article 3 courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status?
Are you familiar with hair growth?
So, by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination.
I'm bored.
So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch. The courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too. So all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately makes.
Bored. I'm bored, Stephen. I'm bored. You are not a leading man. You're a boring nerd. And you get caught up in this legal mumbo jumbo to try and justify what is fundamentally un-American. Suspending everyone's right to a free trial. I don't give a fuck if there's a Supreme Court case or there's a law that was passed that technically, in a legal sense, gives the president the right to suspend habeas corpus. That does not supersede what our country was founded on, which is genocide and being heartless. It actually, suspending habeas corpus is actually a very American thing to do. It's a very American thing. Taking away someone's rights is probably the most American thing you can do. So honestly, I'm going to commend Stephen Miller. And I hope that By the way, if Stephen Miller suspends habeas corpus, you know who doesn't have habeas corpus? Stephen Miller. So they can send Stephen Miller. The most ironic and hilarious thing that could happen is they send you to the fucking El Salvadorian prison, CCOT. They might do that. And if Trump does that, I'll come and visit you. And we can talk about the law. Let's move on. Our next story, we have a lot of interesting... Oh, I have to cover this one before we end. Let's do the Elizabeth Holmes... We all know Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes, if you don't know, I'll catch you guys. I'll bring you guys up to speed. Elizabeth Holmes is a entrepreneur who was wrongfully convicted of fraud by the government. Elizabeth Holmes was the founder of Theranos. Theranos was an incredibly innovative blood testing company. And she was found guilty and convicted of fraud, sentenced to 11 years in prison because an overzealous careerist prosecutor wanted to leg up and wanted to advance their career. Elizabeth Holmes is innocent. She was an individual who only merely wanted to help bring innovative healthcare solutions. And here, if you don't know, the main innovation that Elizabeth Holmes wanted to bring to the public was a machine that, with just one drop of blood, would tell you that you have AIDS when you actually don't. And that was an incredible innovation that she wanted to bring to people. Elizabeth Holmes wanted to be able to, just with a single... This is the novelty and the power of her intelligent mind. Is she wanted to create a machine where with one prick of blood, it would actually tell you that you're fatally diabetic and anemic, when in reality you're healthy, and vice versa. It wanted to give blood panel results that were so factually wrong that you'd in fact feel better about your health. Right? It would tell you you're healthy when you're not, and it would tell you that you're not healthy when you are healthy. And that is such an incredible innovation that Elizabeth wanted to bring to the public desperately. And she was jailed and imprisoned because she's a woman. And I'm sorry, but we don't live in a country where women we don't live in a country where women can commit fraud and get away with it yet. We only live in a country where men can commit fraud and get away with it. And I want to live in a world, I'm a feminist. I want to live in a world where anyone who's rich can get away with fraud and get paroled. Why can't we live in a world where everyone who's worth $10 million and is well connected politically can get away with fraud? It's only men. We need to expand our mind and realize that rich women deserve to get away with crimes too. I mean, this is something that I've advocated for. What happened to us? What happened? But there's a happy ending, ladies and gentlemen, because Elizabeth Holmes is getting a second chance. Her boyfriend, whose name is Billy Evans. I like that name. It's a good American name. Billy Evans. Billworth. He's rich. His real name is Billworth Evanson III. His real name is Rupert Murdoch Jr. Headline. The headline for this is amazing, guys. Elizabeth Holmes' partner has a new blood testing startup. What? Billy Evans has 2 children with a Theranos founder who's in jail. He's now trying to raise money for a testing company, a blood testing company that promises human health optimization. Incredible. Let's scroll down a little bit. And guys, look at this couple. That's Elizabeth Holmes and her boyfriend, Billy Evans. And I know what you're thinking. This picture is screaming, hey, we're looking for a third and we thought you looked cute. Hey, my partner and I saw you from across the bar. We're looking for a third. Look in that man's eyes and tell me you don't think this. Hey, my partner and I are interested in expanding our sexual adventures, and we were wondering if you'd like to come back to the Hilton hotel that we're staying at here in Santa Fe. Hey, I'm in Santa Fe. This is what Elizabeth Holmes. By the way, if you don't know, Elizabeth Holmes has a super low voice. Like, she pretended to have a really low voice to seem more masculine. It didn't work. She still went to jail. But like, imagine, could you scroll up to the photo again? Like, really, I want you guys to look into their eyes and imagine you're at a bar and Elizabeth Holmes is there. Good. Oh, that's beautiful. Elizabeth Holmes is there with her boyfriend Billy, and she comes up to you and she gives you a martini, which is laced, which is roofied, and she goes, "Hey, my boyfriend and I thought you were cute, and we were wondering like if you wanted to like go to the Hilton and like get a little freaky with us, get a little freaky." And a lot of you sick fucks would, and I know that you would. But my first, I'm almost like, are you trans? Like, why is your voice so low? Like, are you taking tea? But the good thing, this is a good story. There's a lot of bad stories today. This is a good story. It's about a woman who is an entrepreneur and is getting a second chance to raise venture capital from jail. And that is awesome. You gotta admit, and you gotta give Elizabeth Holmes her flowers, which is that she's the first woman in history who's in jail and raising venture capital from leading venture capitalists. That is an incredible... Guys, if I was in jail, I would not be on Zoom calls with Google Ventures. I would not be on Zoom calls with Sequoia and Andreessen Horowitz, which she probably is. So, why is this crazy? This is crazy because she's basically using her boyfriend as a surrogate puppet CEO to reignite. This woman doesn't go away. And I knew it. I knew it the moment I first saw an interview with her, that this woman, we had not seen the end of Elizabeth Holmes. Look at this. Look really, truly. Look in Elizabeth Holmes' eyes. I want you to really take a good look in her eyes. Baby blue colored eyes. I want you to tell me that you don't see a woman that would crush your neck, to get on top of you, to get ahead. This is a woman that would assassinate the president of Venezuela. This is like Hillary Clinton level careerism. This is a woman that would sit in a boardroom and you'd be like, well, Elizabeth Holmes, like, the FDA rejected the patent application. I'm really sorry, but I just don't see a way forward with the technology. I know you've invested a lot of money in this technology, but like, the simple answer is no. The FDA told us no, and I don't know what we're going to do. She would look at you and be like, there's a path. There's always a path. She'd grab your neck and she'd be like, there's always a path. And then she would go, you go back to the FDA and you tell them I know where they fucking live. Do it! Like, I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. You do it. You know when she gets them. And here's the thing. I'm wondering with this new... So Elizabeth Holmes, if you'll remember, pretended to have a very low voice. So now I'm wondering with this guy, with Billy, is he going to have a very high voice? I think he's going to pretend to have a very high voice. Like, he's going to be at TechCrunch or Forbes. He's going to be at some Forbes speaking event with his legs crossed. And he'll be like, well, you know, I'm really excited about the startup. I'm really excited about bringing blood testing solutions to people. He's going to sound like Mickey Mouse. Let's learn more. And we'll wrap it up. So this is insane. And you got to commend Elizabeth Holmes' courage. It's called tenacity. Elizabeth Holmes, how about this? Elizabeth Holmes is the only woman who should have habeas corpus. Everyone else, we're no longer allowed a free trial. How about this? I want Stephen Miller to be like, look, habeas corpus, we can suspend it if immigrants are invading our country. That being said, Elizabeth Holmes, she gets 2 trials. Actually, she gets 0. How about Elizabeth Holmes is not allowed to commit a crime? I think she can do anything and not go to jail. I love her. Billy Evans, who has 2 children with Miss Holmes, is trying, get this is real. This is real. This is crazy. Billy Evans, who has 2 children with Miss Holmes, is trying to raise money for a company that describes itself as, quote, the future of diagnostics, and, quote, a radically new approach to health testing. If that sounds familiar, it's because Theranos similarly aimed to revolutionize diagnostic testing. It's a carbon copy with one difference. He's starting a company that's a carbon copy of Theranos. And what's the difference? Is they're starting with animals. That's the difference. So, Theranos turned out to be a fraud. And if you could scroll down, what's really smart about Billy Evans, and this is why it's interesting, is they're starting with diagnostic blood testing for animals. Let's see if you can keep going down here. I mean, the machine looks exactly like the Theranos machine. We all know who's really in charge here. We all know who wears the pants in that relationship. Elizabeth Holmes is going to revolutionize diagnostic testing from jail. Now, meanwhile, what is P. Diddy doing from jail? We don't know. His trial, we don't have enough time for his trial, but let's take a look. Okay, here we go. It's not clear what the company means by that. A spokesman for the U.S. Department of Agriculture said he was not able to confirm whether the agency had corresponded with Hernandez. Also, these people, the names they choose for their companies is just so unbelievably stupid. Like Palantir. They like, oh, you know what we'll do? We'll reference we'll reference the evil orb. You know what? I'm actually renaming Sean Show. I'm renaming Sean Show. I'm calling it Auschwitz-Birkenau. You know what? I'm renaming Sean Show. I'm renaming it Hail Hitler. No, I'm kidding. I would never do that. But that's the idiocy of these people, is they rename their startups. Oh, by the way, it's a stealth startup. Fuck you. You know, nothing pisses me off more than a company in stealth. Have you ever gone on someone's LinkedIn and they go, building something new, stealth. Building something new. What do you, if someone is building something new and they're in a stealth startup on LinkedIn, just know that they are working with the CIA to execute your family. Or they want to take your blood and sell it to Facebook. That's what they're doing. When you're in stealth, this is what Billy said in an interview. When you're in stealth, you're trying to be in stealth. They aren't going to find anything associated with the name Hernandez. Okay. It does not appear that the proposed product is within the regulatory. What is that? Could you scroll up a little? Oh, here we go. Down. Regulatory jurisdiction. Oh, surprise. Mr. Evans is the heir to a hotel fortune. You know what I like? I like it when my blood science diagnostic entrepreneurs are hotel fortune heirs. Don't you like that? No, that makes sense. It makes sense that it's almost like a comedian who studied aerospace engineering. It makes a lot of sense. That's a self roast. He is a hotel fortune heir, and now he wants to raise venture capital to do diagnostics blood testing, and he's fucking a fraud. The startup has 10 employees, and we are all going to be using Hernandez someday. But there's stuff about animals. I just want to we'll end on that. If you scroll down more, there's something about animals I was reading that I want to cover here. They're very smart. This is a long ass article. Oh, of course he lived in Austin. He lives in Austin, Texas. Maybe he's neighbors with Elon. Okay, here we go. So the animal medicine, so they're starting with animals, which is smart Because what Theranos did is they started with humans, and that's why it blew up, because humans were getting the wrong diagnosis. And here's why men are more evil than women, is because and they're more sinister and cunning. Billy knows that he can get away with more because he can misdiagnose an animal disease in a dog, and if the dog dies, there's not going to be as much. There's still going to be backlash, but there's not going to be as much backlash as Theranos got. So this sick fuck is basically going to be testing the efficacy of his blood testing startup on your pets. So if your dog gets a blood disease, this is real. Just know that very soon, hey, this is for everyone listening. Do you own a dog or you own a cat? If you get a blood test for your dog or your cat, just know that the vet may come back with a panel and said, hey, we had a blood test with Hemanthus, their hot new stealth startup. Is your dog engaged in homosexual activity? And you're like, what? Like, no, my dog is neutered. Well, the blood test came back and your dog has AIDS. You're like, what? Yeah, have you heard of Hemanthus? They raised $20 million from Google Ventures. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Your dog has AIDS. The blood test confirmed. And your dog will not have AIDS. But Billy Evans is making a company, and this is why I love Silicon Valley. He's like, what if I raise $20 million to help make it easier for people to find out their dog has AIDS? And then venture capitalists go, oh, here's all my money. I want to go stay at your hotels. I have a new startup. It's called AIDS for Dog. We give all the dogs AIDS. And that's the crazy thing, is it may end up being this, where he's like, well, we can't really detect whether or not they have AIDS. Our technology's not that good. So what if when we do the diagnostic tests, we also just give them AIDS at the same time? This is the issue. White men in Austin, Texas just want to give your pets AIDS. That's where we're at. They want to suspend habeas corpus and they want to give your dog AIDS. And I won't allow it. I will be a voice for you. I will be in the air traffic control. I will be in the AIDS traffic control. So that is the gist. That's the rub this week, guys. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. If you're still listening, the number one thing you can do is just review the show on Spotify, like the show on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, drop me a comment in the description about what you thought, whether or not you like or hate me. Tell me in the comments. And I'm on the road. I'm going to be headlining Dallas, Texas in December. seanreillycomedy.com for all my stand-up comedy tour dates that are coming up. And tell your friends about the show. I'm growing it. I hope you like. We did a little upgrade. We got a little curtain behind the scene. So upgrades are coming. The show will not stop. I'm waiting on some blood testing results. So I'm worried. The doctor said I may have AIDS. I don't know. So we're waiting to hear back. If I don't die, we're going to keep the show going. And subscribe to the Patreon, even though it's dormant. I'm going to be revamping how I do that. I do have a Patreon with lots of content on there. $5 a month. You get the whole backlog. And we are unsponsored, unfiltered, and unbiased. We're biased, but we're unsponsored. So that's the show. We'll see you next week.